Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on how you can really up your game in your video surveillance. We're going to get started here in 1 or 2 minutes. Thank you for joining. I'm going to let you guys join in. Keep in mind you're muted. You can ask questions through our Q&A pane or through the chat. So we'll get started here in another minute or two. I'm going to get streaming here going on Facebook and YouTube. Hold on 1 second.
No, she's trying to figure out why we can see the email. And we're gonna figure it out at the time. Yeah. Like, so like, did you find the email? Huh? No. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're just getting streaming set up, and we'll be ready to go here shortly. Another minute or so. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. All right, we are streaming. We are live. I want to thank everyone for joining today for our webinar. I'm here in Orlando. I'm in prison, as you can tell by my background here. No, I'm actually at a conference, so not in prison. Don't worry, Mom, Dad, don't worry about it. I didn't do anything wrong. But so today we have a fantastic presentation for you. And I brought the folks on from Claro because when they demonstrated to me this technology that they have, my mind was going to explode when I first saw it. And still, every single time I see this information, it makes me think of new use cases and new ways that we can bring this to market. My name is Ira Feuerstein. I'm with a company called TCG. Basically, we are a technology services broker. So what we do is we find the best of the best in technology, and we help bring that technology to customers. And it could be video surveillance, it could be voice over IP, business telephone systems, bandwidth for your office, credit card processing, you name it. We come at this as an independent broker to help you determine what is the best product for yourselves, and then we bring those suppliers to the table and make them earn your business. So we're unbiased. We're going to bring you only the best of the best. And today we've got what I consider to be the best of the best with this great AI, artificial intelligence, video analytics platform. So with that, I want to welcome Patrick and Jose from Claro. Guys, welcome. Thanks for joining today. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
and I think we're gonna have a great talk today. So please, if you have questions, ask them in the chat window. I will try to get to as many as possible. Keep in mind you are muted, so we won't hear the dogs and the babies and the landscapers and all that stuff. I'll mute myself here because I am in a conference, so I'll just come on unmute as I need to ask questions. And we're going to go from there. So let's get started. So Patrick, welcome, and let's talk about a little bit about the solution. I'm interested to get this in front of everybody. Oh, and by the way, everyone, stay to the end, because if you stay to the end, we're going to do a drawing for a $100 gift card. So stay on. All right, Patrick, let's do it.
Thank you, Ira. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Patrick Verdugo. I'm the Director of IoT Product Management for Claro Enterprise Solutions. Today, we're going to talk about our AI video analytics offering. So what we have is an offering that essentially augments any existing video surveillance system with artificial intelligence and machine learning. We have a custom-built server with extra compute power. That's this machine you see on the left-hand side. We custom build that for each and every deployment because no two places are the same. Not everybody has the same number of cameras. Not everybody's interested in the same number of use cases. So we try to optimize that to address the needs of every individual customer. This system is capable of processing live camera feeds from any camera that has RTSP or real-time streaming protocol, but it can also connect directly to an existing NVR or DVR that has a data connection over the network on-premise, side by side is connected using an Ethernet connection, and we can then process live video feeds from any of the existing cameras through the NVR DVR to actually look for situations and do analytics, and in some cases generate very important alerts. So this is a video search and AI analytics platform. We don't store video in here. Only when we detect a case that matches a set of conditions that we need to use as an alert do we store, and we store a short clip. You can always go back to the source. The end user is essentially going to keep the existing video surveillance system. We're not going to ask customers to change what they have. We are going to augment or add capability to it. So first and
Yeah,
foremost,
one thing I want to say there, everybody, is this is really important to understand the why behind this, right? I mean, maybe even before we get to the what it does, is that here's the thing. Many companies have video surveillance, right? You see it everywhere now, but there's an inherent problem with it. And the problem is this: unless you have eyeballs on those feeds 24/7, and sometimes these people are looking at 6, 7, 10, 20 screens. Unless you have eyeballs on those screens at all times, it is a reactive methodology, meaning something happens, and unless somebody, a real person, sees it happen on the video stream, it could be hours or days until you go back to that and you determine something happened. Is that adequate in today's society? I don't think so. I really don't. And I'm gonna take you back to the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. You know, when I was watching the news that was going down, they showed this grainy video of the guy getting out of the car holding what looked like a gun. And it was grainy, it was not perfect. But the thing is, unless somebody happened to see that happening at the moment, what good is it? So what? Later you can look back at the video and say, yeah, there he was. Well, it didn't do anything to help you. Nothing. So what AI does is it allows computing power to evaluate the video real time and determine if certain key factors are happening. And if one of those key factors happens, and this is where you're going to see a lot of use cases here as Patrick gets into it, then a notification can be sent out to notify a human being that this needs to be looked at because X, Y, or Z has been seen in a video. So understand this. This is a proactive approach to video monitoring, not a reactive approach. And Patrick, I'll let you continue on, but I wanted to make that comment.
thank you, Ira. So first and foremost, one of the things that the artificial intelligence-based video surveillance server can do is recognize objects or people based on attributes. You define the parameters of what you want to find or what conditions need to be met in order to generate an alert. So some examples of looking for things: I might have a neighborhood with cameras, and maybe I'm lost my dog and I want to find my dog. As long as there's cameras, we can recognize dogs. We can recognize look for an object like the lady is holding a very large black handbag. Maybe I'm looking for a red car traversing through the neighborhood, or maybe this is outside an office and I want to be alerted that there's multiple vehicles or many vehicles coming in. Here I have a young man with a backpack looking for the black backpack. Here's a gentleman walking through a hallway holding, in this case, a cell phone. It could be holding other things. And here's a bunch of kids on bicycles, maybe messing around in the neighborhood. I want to be alerted when I find out that this is happening. So to give you an example, I'm going to show you a very quick video of first searching a real-time video feed coming from a camera with a couple of attributes, and then we're going to look at actually recorded video with a couple of attributes. So in the first case, what we're going to see here is using a very simple user interface. I'm going to do a search. I'm going to go in and I'm going to say I'm going to look for a person. I'm going to use the attribute of the color red, and I'm also going to look for an object, and I'm going to select a bicycle. Now, what this will do is actually do a search against an existing video feed, and we'll pick one of the frames to show you. Oops, I'm sorry. My mouse went crazy and fed through, so I apologize. We'll move this forward a little bit, and I'll hit stop here at the appropriate time when we get the results back. Typically, these results come back in less than 2 seconds. We're looking for a person in red and a bicycle. And what you'll see in the video here is the lady in the front has a red and white shirt. The lady on the bicycle has a red shorts. So we recognize the persons, the color of the bicycle. In the case of a recorded video, I can select a date range or a specific date. In this case, I'm going to select one day. I'm going to go in and say, I want to look for a vehicle. I want to look, in fact, for a specific vehicle or type of vehicle. I'm looking for white BMW. I'm going to select BMW from the list and say, hey, go look at my recorded video and find me white BMWs. And we're going to go ahead and effect the search. And we're going to get a bunch of results back with white BMWs, and we're going to select one where you can see the whole car so you can see that indeed it is a white BMW. So it can recognize a car by make and model and color. Now, the point of this is that it is being done extremely quickly. And in fact, in a recorded video, if I have 8 days worth of recording and I want to go in and search for a particular event, I can get results as quickly as 2 seconds to do 8 days worth of videos. Here, I'm going to show you a different use case. We're looking at from very far away, we're looking at a camera, through a camera, to someone walking. It's almost like a block away. There's a person walking next to the white car where my cursor is. This is a little bit of a zoom so you can see the white car and the person walking. And here, the system has recognized a person dressed in white. Now, if you think at the use case that Ira was mentioning, we could set rules that say if you see a car come into the parking lot of a school, not at drop-off time, not at pickup time, especially if they're driving very quickly and park sort of suddenly, and then open the trunk and start pulling things out, we can generate alerts right away. So we can define these types of conditions to generate alerts. We can also do what you see on the right-hand side of the screen here, which is real intrusion detection when I create a geofence. A geofence is basically I drew a perimeter with my cursor on this live video stream, and I instructed the system to say, generate an alert if somebody breaks into that geofenced area. So there's 2 examples of alerts that can be generated.
And one thing I'll say with this is we're, of course, I can't, for confidentiality, I can't say who or what type of client, but we're working with a customer right now that is in healthcare, and they've got multiple entrances to their facility. They've got the front door, which is where everyone comes in, and they got 2 back doors. And one of the big things we're doing for them is we're going to draw on the back doors a geofence right around that door, that if anyone breaks through that geofence, because no one should be coming in those doors other than workers at the healthcare facility. So anytime somebody breaks that boundary, there will be a notification set up for that.
So from an intrusion detection perspective, we can leverage infrared cameras if you have, for example, if you have a warehouse that's completely dark and you want to detect if someone comes in, we can connect to infrared cameras. However, the system with just the regular cameras that are installed is extremely good, even in very low light conditions. There's actually a person standing here and has been picked up that they're in there and they're not supposed to be in there at this time of day. And on the right hand side, you see that I can create a geofence on an active video stream or on a recorded video. And if anybody breaks that geofence, if somebody walks this way and crosses the street, we're not going to generate an alert. If anybody breaks the geofence, we're going to generate an alert. It's very important from an intrusion detection perspective to be able to detect vehicles. We can do license plate recognition even at highway speeds. We can do people detection. We can do face recognition. So if you have someone that's not supposed to be in the facility. We recognize them. Of course, you have to have authorization to do facial recognition. We can deny them entry. We can also detect groups of people congregating, and we'll see an example of that a little bit later. We can also do weapons detection, and this is a really important one in light of what happened at that school. We can recognize knives, rifles, shotguns, and handguns, even holstered weapons, and generate a real-time alert. So over here on the right, you see on our server the intrusion detection combined with weapon detection. Somebody walked in, they're carrying a rifle. We have essentially detected the person, the rifle, and we have captured their face. So obviously that can generate a real-time alert. We can do automatic simultaneous recognition of multiple faces in one video frame or image. So in this case, we see several people, and we've asked for the lady with short hair and sunglasses, and she's being singled out from the rest of the crowd anonymously. I don't know who she is. Those are the attributes I put in just to show that I could use attributes to do selection. And if we have a facial recognition example where I have permission to do facial recognition, and I have that in a database, either in an external system or in our server, you can actually put a database in our server with images. We can support things like access control for customers, employees, or management. We can trigger alerts based on rules, grant or deny access, people that are not authorized to enter a certain area, for example, or the need to find somebody. As an example, in a car dealership, we have cameras throughout the parking facility, and we're doing several things there. We also have cameras in the showroom and the hallways. I can say, where's the manager? And it'll go find the manager on all the active video feeds and identify them by face and tell us where they are. Another use case that's very typical, for example, is fire detection. So we can detect smoke, we can detect fire, both indoors and outdoors. Indoors, it's pretty common to have smoke detectors, which triggers the necessary alarms. But think about a dumpster on fire, or a car on fire in the parking lot, or a tree that got hit by lightning, or any other condition, arson, or, now that these people are demonstrating against Roe versus Wade, they've been known to throw Molotov cocktails at health facilities that cater to, for example, pregnancy counseling centers and places like that. So this is critically important to be able to detect fire outdoors. We can recognize vehicles by make and model. As you saw, we detected a white BMW in a previous frame. Here, we're actually asking for a BMW X4 in gray or white, and here it is. You can also, here we have an active feed, and I want to know what kind of vehicle is that. Any vehicle that comes around the corner, I want to capture, and I want to know what it is. And here it's telling me it's a Toyota Tundra, it's gray, and it even gives me the vehicle dimensions. Not that that's very useful, but it recognizes the vehicle, which is the important point. We can do, obviously, license plate recognition in any condition, whether the vehicle is parked or moving at any speed. So these are other use cases that can be used for controlling unauthorized vehicles coming into an area, for example. We can do grant or deny simply by drawing, and I apologize, I have a funky mouse that just kind of fails at times. By drawing a threshold and defining that to the system, say anybody crosses that threshold, I want to immediately identify them and see whether they're allowed or not to come in the door. So there's actually a door here, and this person can be granted or denied access. And if there are electric door locks, you can integrate with them to either open the door or keep the door locked. Ira, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think this could be really good in like park warehouses. You think about like companies have big warehouses of parts, and they don't want everyone running around in there because they could easily just take stuff out. I think this is a great example. Secure areas, of a building where there's only certain people that have the right to be in, maybe in an IT room, right, or maybe in a closet with all your IT gear. I mean, there's so many different use cases.
I want to point out another example, and I'm going to go back here for just a second. License plate recognition. Think about a homeowners association, and all of the residents of that association are registered. We know their license plates from their cars. We can have a camera that faces the gates, and when it recognizes your license plate, automatically opens the doors. You don't have to put codes. You don't have to swipe cards. You don't have to push buttons. And if somebody were to enter the neighborhood that's not allowed by maybe tailgating, if you have cameras around the neighborhood, we can actually track and trace that unauthorized vehicle and alert security that somebody drove in without going through the proper process and is currently parked at a particular place, as an example. We can do on a live video feed, again, we can draw a boundary and we can say, I want you to count vehicles. So here I get a total count of vehicles, bicycles, we have buses, cars, motorcycles, and trucks. What is a real life use for this? Traffic analysis is an example. Another example is parking lot capacity. If I have a multi-story parking garage where customers are coming in, I can have a digital display at the entry at each floor showing me how many open slots there are simply by counting how many came in and how many exited from each and every floor. So I can save people time. If there's no parking spots available, it'll tell me there's none, so I'll go to the next floor. And that way I know when I go in that there will be a spot that I can park at. That's just an example of leveraging vehicle counting technology.
Well, in real estate too, that's important, because if you're going to go pay money for a retail location, one of the things they always want to know is, what's the traffic that comes by this location every day? Like that's a big selling point for people wanting to rent real estate for business.
We can also count people using the same methodology, drawing a threshold, and then keeping track of people coming in and going out. This has many different uses. An example is I want to know how many people are coming into the mall. I want to know how many people are coming in and out of a restaurant so I can know what my total capacity is and my occupancy. During COVID, if you turn on occupancy, you get an alarm when you reach that occupancy threshold. So during COVID, you were only allowed to fill restaurants up to 50%. So you turned on the occupancy alert, and you said no more than 50 people at a time in the restaurant, even though they could probably sit 75 or 100 people. So that's another example of using people counting. Another example is at a car dealership. Using the camera, we're counting how many people come in over time. So on a Saturday morning versus a Tuesday afternoon. And with that statistical data, I could make staffing decisions. How many salesmen do I need on the floor? How many, based on the traffic analysis, like I'm sure I'll need more on a Saturday afternoon than I'll need on a Tuesday afternoon, as an example. So it can be used in many different ways. In terms of personal protection equipment, we can detect a plethora of different types of equipment. In construction sites, we want to make sure that the people that are in the construction site are supposed to be there, but also that they're wearing their helmets, also that they're wearing their vests. If they need to be wearing, for example, work boots, if they need to be wearing harnesses when they climb structures, all of these things can be programmed in and all the necessary alerts generated if people are not in compliance. Talking about compliance, this was, again, a result of the pandemic, detecting whether people are adhering to mask mandates. And this is actually even used outside of COVID. And you'll see that the girl that had no mask is being singled out by the system. Here you'll get another view coming around the corner, people with their masks on. Young lady doesn't have a mask. She gets essentially picked out of the group as a no mask offender. Now, this is used in hospitals because in hospitals, in spite of the fact that we're over the pandemic for the most part, nursing staff are supposed to be wearing masks all the time. You can use this in industrial facilities. For example, there's a tuna canning facility where people are supposed to wear hair nets. They're supposed to wear a jacket, and they're supposed to wear gloves, and they're supposed to wear special boots because there's water running and chemicals on the floor. So it's another example, and you can train the system to recognize, for example, if we don't have the right object defined to the system, you can actually train the system to recognize new objects without having to reprogram it. We can detect falls. So this is used in hospitals. This is used in retail malls. This is used in places of business. Here you see from right to left the person falling to the floor. You can generate an alert, go get assistance, but it can also be used for forensic analysis because sometimes people will intentionally fall down and then say, claim, oh, the floor was slippery, I hurt myself, and they try to sue the tenant or the owner. So it's just another example.
You know, one thing I'll say about that, I'll give you a real world example. So my mom was in an assisted living facility, and she actually ended up falling in the hallway, broke her hip, and she laid there on the floor for like 15 or 20 minutes before anyone even knew something was wrong. And you know, it's just because they didn't have people monitoring the floors, they had no cameras, they had no idea. And you know, would it have stopped her from falling? No. Would it have got her help more quickly? Yes. And that's a pretty big deal in my opinion.
One other point, and Ira mentioned earlier the concern that these healthcare facilities have with the demonstrators that are demonstrating because of the Roe versus Wade decision. They want to basically measure congregation. How many people are hanging around the entrance to the facility? And maybe when a certain threshold is reached, they want to call for assistance because it gets dangerous. These people have been known to throw Molotov cocktails. So this is called heat maps. Basically, we can see where people dwell, for how long they dwell, and if we can combine that with measuring the number of people that are congregating in front of the facility.
Hey,
We can,
hey Patrick, couldn't you use that in like a retail
yes.
location too? Like, you know, if I'm a retail owner and I want to know what kind of advertising is working, I could look to see where and how people are congregating to see if my advertising or my cap space is being effectively utilized. Is that a use case?
I'm glad you reminded me. Actually, we have a car dealership that uses this to gauge the interest in a particular model. They bring, you know, how they are constantly shifting vehicles around. They always have something in the showroom that draws people in. So, what they do with the camera is they look at the number of people that congregate around a particular vehicle, and they can gauge whether that is, you know, of high interest to people and how many people actually sort of you know, stood around the car for a substantial period of time versus another car that's 10 feet away that nobody looks at, and then they know that they need to move that one out and bring something else in. So it can be used for many different things in retail, for gauging the results of promotions and sales and things of that nature. One other thing that we do, and we use this in our medical, we have a solution for healthcare to try to basically address the problem of asset loss. You know, hospitals lose mobile medical equipment on a yearly basis, and it's pretty severe. In some hospitals that don't have any loss prevention in place, it can be up to 15 to 35% of the assets. Sometimes there are machines like this, which can cost $25,000, $35,000. Someone dressed like a nurse comes in, grabs the handle, and starts walking down the hall, and off goes the machine and gets loaded into a truck, appears on eBay for sale. So we do two things to help hospitals reduce asset loss. One is we put beacons on the equipment, which basically allows us to electronically track it. But these people that steal these things are pretty smart. They look for the beacons, they rip them off, they look for QR codes, they rip them off, and they just keep going. So we also use video analytics. So we see this with the cameras in the hallway. And as soon as this piece of equipment exits a geofenced area, it generates an alert to security. Hey, that machine that's never supposed to leave the diagnostic imaging area is currently heading towards an elevator or has appeared on a floor that it's not supposed to. We can also track anything that's tagged or labeled with a QR code. It doesn't have to be that big. This is just so we could show you that there's a QR code there. But essentially, that can be used to tag things like IT assets. laptops, desktops, monitors, so that if they're walking down the hall, they can be recognized and alerts generated before they leave the facility. As I mentioned, we can do training for new objects. So we had a customer that said, "Hey, I want to know if there's any uh, someone's on not mute. Can we mute that line?" We can train the system to recognize new objects. In this case, we're looking for drones. This is an industrial facility that had cameras on all four corners, and they wanted to know if any drones were coming. Literally did this in less than a day. I mean, it really was only a couple of hours of training the system. You don't have to reprogram it. You don't have to have a specialist do it. We provide the tools to be able to recognize new objects. As I mentioned, for personal protection equipment, for example, in some industries, you have to wear, hair nets or goggles or gloves or special colored vests or things of that nature. So all of that can be done. In terms of performance, this is a Google-like search. You saw that it was basically point and click pretty much, but you can also enter words, keywords. You can take an 8-day video, 8 days worth of video, and get results in less than 2 seconds with greater than 95% accuracy and no false alarms caused by animals, shadows, weather conditions, etc. So very accurate and very high performing. It is a system that is easy to integrate with existing video monitoring systems. So from how does this get implemented? You can connect live streaming cameras directly. You can connect existing NVRs or DVRs directly, and then using a web-based interface from either a phone, a tablet, a desktop, or a laptop, connect to the system and essentially configure your events and alerts. We can generate alerts using email. We can use alerts using HTTP for alarm systems so that we can actually trigger your alarm system, for example, if there's a fire detection, or for example, if there's intrusion detection after hours, just like your alarm system would, except we're leveraging the video surveillance to actually do the trigger. We also support voice message systems. And why this? I'll give you a real example. In a hospital, in the emergency access area, there's a camera that keeps track of anybody parking right outside the emergency entrance. Sometimes people arrive with their loved ones. They're in a hurry to get them inside. They leave the car there. They turn it off. They walk in. They're taking care of their loved one, but their car is blocking the ambulance entrance. So by using this technology, we can actually send a voice message over the loudspeaker that says, "Will the owner of the gray Toyota Tundra parked in front of emergency please move your vehicle? You're blocking the ambulance entrance," without anybody having to be out there supervising, without having to have a guard standing around. So you could also use this to generate an alert. There's an intruder in the parking lot. The place is going into lockdown, as an example. So again, this is all implementation, but just showing the flexibility. A very important point is what kind of video surveillance systems we have experience with. We have integrated with every one of the ones on this list, and it's by no means a complete list. Typically, these are the more popular ones. And I know, for example, Hikvision is very, very popular. Exact is very popular, and so on. So we have a great deal of compatibility with any of the NVRs or DVRs that are out there. So that is our video surveillance system. Some people may say, well, what if I have multiple facilities? So if I have a single facility, I can put the server in on premise, connect it to the NVR, DVR, or to the real-time cameras and leverage that. If I have multiple facilities, I can put a slightly bigger server with more capacity and bring the video feeds from the remote site over the network and leverage that capability so I don't have to put a machine at every site. And for extremely large deployments, like a hospital with 5 buildings and 10 floors per building and hundreds of cameras, we can actually do it in the cloud as well. This is for very, very large deployments. So that is our video surveillance solution. Ira asked me to also show you the patient tracking capability that we provide. This is a different solution where we leverage some of the same technologies. Now, we won the Artificial Intelligence Award in 2021 for the use of our video analytics in healthcare. So I'll show you here essentially how does it work. We provide a tracker. It doesn't really look like that anymore. It looks more like a Fitbit that the patient wears around their wrist. And this is particularly for dementia and Alzheimer's patients because they get very disoriented very easily. They get lost, they wander, they have a tendency to go walking and wander away from a facility. So we provide the tracking stations, the trackers, the tracking stations, and a cloud-based service that can generate alerts to any Android phone, iOS phone, or browser on any computer. We can use push notification, email, or SMS alerts. The idea is to protect the patient. So what we do is we draw a geofence around the facility and we track them with that Fitbit-like tracker that they wear on their arms. And we can at any point in time find out where the patients are. Now, there's a slight problem with this, and that is that patients sometimes will take the tracker off. So we basically combined it with our video surveillance capability, where we do the same thing with video. If they took their tracker off, we still can detect that the patient has left the geofence, as well as detecting falls within the facility, keeping an eye out for vehicles, keeping an eye out for fire, keeping an eye out for many of the other use cases that you saw in the previous presentation, including, for example, personal protection equipment compliance. Are people wearing their masks when they come? Because these people are usually frail and in poor health, and you really, to protect them, you should always wear a mask, even outside of COVID conditions. So many, many different use cases and cameras strategically placed. Obviously, this is just for demonstration purposes. We have a bunch of cameras here. You don't have to have that many cameras, but putting them in key locations is very important. So that is, in essence, the patient care strategy. Obviously, the benefit is the proactive real-time tracking of patients with pinpoint accuracy, generate alerts if they enter or exit predefined areas, and you get additional value from the video surveillance by generating alerts if patients leave a geofenced area, or even if the tracker is off, even if they've taken it off, detect false vehicles, etc. So it improves patient care, and you can actually, if that's the way you want to configure it, not only send the caregiver the alert, but also send the family member the alert. So that's just an example. So that's that solution. Any questions, please feel free.
Yeah, so we got let's open up the chat. So we do have some questions here I'll bring up. And while I'm doing that, everybody, a couple things I want to do here. Number one, I want to make sure you all understand this technology is super advanced. Like it allows you to do businesses to do things that they haven't been able to do before. It allows them to not have to have eyes on screens at all times. It allows them to check for certain things in their business that could be a risk to either the business or people within the business or the people themselves. You know, like in the example of, you know, an old person falling in an assisted care living facility. So there's many use cases here, but one of the first questions that came up here, guys, is how is this priced? And I know it's a complex question, right? But can you give them just
generically
idea of kind of how the pricing exercise works?
In order to produce a price, we have to have an understanding of the facility, the type of NVR, DVR, and the number of cameras. So sometimes in a very small facility, you might have 2 cameras in the back, 2 cameras in the front, 1 camera in the lobby. That would be like a 5-camera system. It's going to be priced based on the number of cameras and the number of use cases. So that's to give you an idea. No 2 facilities are the same. We've implemented this in 300-bed hospitals, 9-story facility with a couple of parking garages, and done it for the purpose of tracking patients and equipment as well as personnel. We've also done this in a warehouse environment where we want to track the forklifts. They drive like maniacs. We want to make sure that They're driving like they should and not driving like maniacs, and that people are staying within the yellow lines to protect them. So the use cases are very broad and very varied, and of course the pricing varies depending on size of the facility, number of cameras, number of use cases. Can't hear you, Ira.
So it's not as easy as just say, poof, there's a number. And that's the point I wanted to make is that everyone, and this is a solution. This is not, we need a gig of bandwidth at our office, right? Easy to quote out as long as you have the address. It's not, we need 20 voice over IP phones. This is like, okay, well, we want to, have this many cameras. We want to watch for fires. We want to watch for falls. We want to monitor cars, right? We got to really understand kind of what their use case is, because Claro needs to size the server accordingly, and then also needs to determine, is it going to be an on-premise server or is it going to be in the cloud? And generally, those in the cloud ones are for bigger deployments, right?
Yeah.
More use cases, more data going back and forth. But I think the nice thing about this that everyone also should understand is this gives you the opportunity to add on to something many customers already have. They already have most companies already have some cameras, right? But a question came up is, what if they don't have cameras? And I have a solution for that. What I've done is I've created a sort of tertiary relationship between Claro, company I'm with, TCG, and then another company that actually can sell and install the cameras. So, if you have a customer who doesn't have cameras, no big deal. We have an option to be able to handle that for them.
I want to add two comments, Ira, if I
Okay,
may, really
sure.
quickly. Number one is you don't have to enable every camera to do every use case, and we do that specifically to keep the price consumable. You don't want to be doing license plate recognition in hallway cameras. It makes no sense, right? Same thing in terms of the outdoor cameras maybe are not going to do fall detection, as an example. So you pick the count number of cameras and you pick which use cases go with each camera. Another important point is this: there are cameras in the marketplace today that do facial recognition. They do very minimal capabilities. Those cameras, each camera has to pay a license for the software that runs inside that camera. And these are expensive cameras, let me tell you. You have to pay that software license for each camera individually. So if you have 10 cameras, you're paying 10 times the software license. With our solution, you only pay for one software license, whether you have one camera or 100 cameras. So I just wanted to point that out because that is also a differentiator. Thank you.
That's a big. Now, at what point? There's another question that came up. At what point does it make sense to go from an on-premise to the cloud? Is there a certain set of use cases that makes sense?
Generally, if you're talking about multiple building facility that may not have internal IT and don't want to manage an on-premise server, but the cloud solution is far more expensive than the on-premise solution. Remember, if I'm on-premise, I'm inside the local area network. Our server is connected through a switch or a hub directly to the NVR DVR. I don't have to pay for external network capacity to move video feeds from one building to another. So typically, like if you're talking about a multi-story, multi-building facility, and perhaps even a multi-city facility, then it might make sense to look for the cloud.
Okay. And another question is, where, if you're a partner and you want to bring this technology to your customers, what are the use cases, or what industries are the low hanging? I know I have my own ideas, but
Okay, you broke up a little bit there, Ira, so I didn't hear the end of the question.
Oh, yeah. What I'd like from you guys on what you think the low hanging fruit industries are.
Okay. So
where we should be looking.
Undoubtedly, anybody that needs intrusion detection, anybody that needs outdoor fire detection, places like schools, colleges, places like healthcare facilities. It could be patient care facilities. It could be any kind of healthcare facility, retail locations. I mean, the use cases are broad and varied because the capabilities are broad and varied.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can tell you this, everyone. This week, we've got 2 school districts that we're talking to and a healthcare facility. I think, if you know superintendents at school districts, no brainer. Healthcare, no brainer for sure. Even small municipalities. We have a call set up here in the next week or two with a municipality, with the police in the municipality.
I was going to mention the police. I'm glad you brought it up because the police, now that they wear body cams and car cams, they store a tremendous amount of video. Sometimes they need to go back and do forensic analysis. They need to find a specific event in a video. With this technology, we've seen a substantial reduction in the amount of time, and I mean really substantial. When you can get results in a couple of seconds as compared to days, if a human being were to sit in front of a DVR, NVR to look at a video, it would take them 4,500 times longer to find it than it does the software.
Yeah, what you're doing in essence is you're distilling video down to be searchable like Google. I mean, that's if you can get your arms around that, how powerful that is, it's enormous. Look for the lady with the purple handbag and the blue shirt.
Right.
Here I go through this at home. We have cameras at our house, right? And sometimes I'll want to go look for something, like somebody, like you said, Patrick, somebody came to our neighborhood and they egged a house down the street from us, right? And we have a great view of everyone that comes in our gate. So I wanted to go to our camera and see if we can see who came in at 2 a.m. But the problem is getting through all the video feeds. It's nuts.
You as a human have to watch it in real time. The computer can watch it much, much faster than you can.
Yeah, so you not only is it watching it in real time, it's notifying in real time. And then if you wanted to go back later and look for something in particular, you can look it up as easy as searching Google. Actually easier because you can put all these filters in. Look for a bike, look for this, look for that, look for this color. And it's mind-blowing to me. So I put an offer up on your screen. And basically the offer is to carve out 15 minutes with me. It's a link to my direct calendar. If you're a customer and you're looking to get a little more information on this, I'd love to talk to you about, kind of what you're thinking, what your needs are. And then if it's appropriate, I'll bring the Claro team in and we'll have a good due diligence discussion with you. If you're a partner and you want to bring this technology, I'd be happy to help you also. But I think it's important to understand that this is a product and a service that is actually making a difference for customers. You can't put a dollar value on that. And I'm going to go back to the Uvalde shooting. If we had this technology in that parking lot, 5 minutes, it would have given a 5-minute lead time on knowing that guy got out and pulled a gun out of his trunk. Would we have stopped it? I don't know. Probably not. Would it have given the police 5 extra minutes when they needed that 5 minutes? Oh, you better believe it would have. And who knows, what would have come from that event. Maybe nobody would have died. And it's
at the end of the
important stuff.
One point that needs to be clearly understood. This is about risk mitigation. This is about deterrence. This is about, reducing the probability of things happening in a very significant way. So that's the way you got to look at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So make sure if you want to book a meeting with me, just click that link, grab 15 minutes, and I'd be happy to chat with you. Let's see here. One last question. Who won the $100?
Sorry, I'm not in the running. I don't know.
Yeah, I can tell you this: it's none of us. So I got a number picker here with
Oh, you broke
All
up
the people
again.
registered.
Broken up.
Okay, so let me make this thing spin. All right, number spinner spin right now. Let's see. Dang, this thing takes a long time. All right, number 5, the 5th person who came in. So let me look at my attendee list. Tony Sethi. Tony is the $100 winner. So Tony, we'll get with you after the webinar, and we'll figure out how to get that to you. Unless you guys have, yeah, congrats, and hopefully you all learned something new today. Do something about this. You know, if you're in a business and you've got cameras, or you're thinking about cameras, and you want to be proactive instead of reactive, hit me up. You know, we'll be happy to chat. And you know, if you're a partner and you want to bring this to your customers, hit me up. You know, I'll help you figure out how to do it. But at the end of the day, we're talking about important technology here that makes a difference. And it's not often that you can truly make a difference that's measurable for a customer. And this is one of those rare opportunities. So with that, I'm going to let everyone go. And Patrick and Jose, thank you
one more
for joining.
thing, you know,
Jose,
I want to tell the team, you know, please don't be shy. You know, we're willing to do the discovery call, so we have the time. Just please reach Ira, and he will invite me and Patrick. But we have the time. We're excited to be in those discovery calls, you know, for any type of opportunity.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And thanks for joining, guys. That was a fantastic presentation. I'm going to head back to my event here, and I look forward to talking to each one of you at some point in the future. Thanks so much for joining, and have an amazing day. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.